And I'll start recording. Okay, so hello everybody, welcome to the review for Ibis sprint number 2. It was technically a 4-week sprint, but we really actually just had 3 weeks of work because of ONOS build, which is actually one of the first topics of the update from a community side. So we had the conference in Paris. It was kind of the primary focus of the sprint, and it was a successful event, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I believe David as well. So in order to get everybody's sort of a viewpoint, we would like to encourage everybody to fill the survey that's posted on a blog describing the ONOS build. On a platform side, who would like to provide an update on this?
Sure, I can do that. So one of the things we hit this sprint was we were relying on some SNMP snapshot libraries from BTI, and they rolled the version on those libraries on 4 separate occasions. So what we've done is we've republished those libraries, which gives us an immutable copy of the artifact, which we now are depending on. We've also completed the release of ONOS 171, which is the second iteration of Hummingbird, as well as ONOS Yang Tools 1.9, which contains the Yang compiler. So there's a number of improvements there, some on DPI stats, IETF topology provider. You can read more in the release notes here, but that was completed, and that was closing some of the loose ends from the original Hummingbird release.
Okay, thank you.
On the northbound side, I'll talk to the last item, and then I'll let Pierre talk about the other two. We had a hackathon team consisting of 4 people, researchers and developers, work on a project to bring an intent provider to the existing intent framework. This is sort of one component of what we've talked about as part of the intent domain work. What they're able to do is they're able to pass intents out through a provider to other subsystems or other clusters. This is still largely proof of concept demo hack quality, but it seems like that group may be interested in trying to pursue a more permanent solution in this arena. So that's why I included it here, because it is allowing us to potentially move forward in an incremental way on some of the features that we were hoping to get with the intent domain work. And explain what it is. So currently, the way the intent framework works is it compiles intents down to flow rules or flow objectives, and then those are handed down to devices. What this does is it would enable an intent to be compiled down into a sub-intent, but not all the way down to flow rules or objectives. And then that sub-intent can be handed off to another ONOS cluster or an NMS or something that's going to be aware of how the intent should be realized in that particular sub-region of the network.
Yeah, it was done in the context of controlling optical devices. Well, that is the idea of Michele, right? Where you have an NMS that controls the optical devices. And so going down to the NMS with a flow rule is not maybe the best abstraction. And so they felt it was good to have an intent abstraction to be sent then to the NMS.
This also potentially has applications in the eCord context where you have a hierarchical ONOS. You have an ONOS for the metro and then local ONOSes. So anyway, we'll see where this goes, but I wanted to point it out because I thought it was a pretty interesting community milestone, and it sort of, at least architecturally, adopts some of the principles that, make this not a tremendous hack, but something that is potentially viable. But I'll let Pierre talk to the other two.
Yeah, the first one basically was a bug fix for the intent that used MPLS encapsulation. We had some problem above all when the edge point used belongs as a selector. The second story basically implements a Unix subsystem to handle the allocation of the label in a general way instead to have a code for VLAN and PLS.
Great, thank you. On the southbound side, at least we didn't have any other update, but we did have a recent contribution from a brand new developer who provided a simulated fat tree topology as part of our null providers. Provide nice clean code, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to see more from him in other areas. Okay, and the web UI, Simon, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so we had kind of a busy sprint, continuing work on the region-aware topology view, including providing net configuration of regions and UI layouts to support an administrator configuring how they want their multi-region topology to work. And then on a different axis, if you like, we've been adding detail views to detail panels to some of the table views, specifically cluster node and flow tables. These are just placeholders with a couple of properties of the selected item, but they will allow us to expand the data there for selected items. More particularly with the flow tables, we want to provide a more logical hierarchical rendering of the treatments and the match keys and so on. So that's there. We've also tried catching up with the icons that our graphic designer is providing for us. You can see a sampling here just to give you kind of a feel for the style. And then also we're adding a fourth person to the UI brigade. Cheng Fan, or Fan Cheng, has helped us out with adding a context-sensitive help button in the mast. Illustrated at the bottom of the slide there, you can see the question mark. If you click on that, it will open a new browser window with a link to, in this case, the wiki page, but the actual link is configurable. So when an application provides new content, their own view, they can configure the help button to launch a new browser window directed at their documentation for that view. So yeah, that's kind of a high-level summary.
Great. Thank you, Simon.
Sure.
Luca, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So yeah, also for the deployment brigade, I guess it was a quite dense sprint. So we created a new PPLS application done mainly by the guys of SCPU. Great job. It comes with a CLI. We'll give a demo of the entire application later on. All this comes with the new VPLS documentation available on the wiki. There was a fix done by Pierre. He talked about that before on MPLS, the allocation of labels. I assumed here with encapsulation improvements in general, but long story short, now in the link collection intent can support encapsulation, which means that also VPLS can support now encapsulation. We prepare, of course, the brigade demo for ONOS build. The sets and config files are in a separate repo, will be committed soon. Waiting for reviews. So these are things that, in our opinion, are finished. They need a review approval from the core team. So we are trying to bring, we brought point-to-point intents and also intents to the link collection compiler. This means no longer two different compilers, but one for all these three intent types. We added encapsulation support for the link collection intents, as I said. VPLS encapsulation support, we'll see that in a demo. There's a fix for the meter ID done by guys of Giant. Things in progress. Resource manager, support for meters, support for bandwidth enforcement in the intent framework. So this means that we will be soon able to create an intent and enforce the bandwidth on it from the intent framework. And then new SDN IP and BPLS tests done by the QA. I guess someone from QA will talk about that later. Out of the sprint, but anyway in progress, because there were people available to work on them. Chain of actions optimized for single point to multi-point intents. Maybe this is a little bit technical to explain right now, but it's an important thing. It's basically a bug fix, very important as well. Packet optical, we are working with Adara Networks, with 3 guys, a team in Adara Networks, to basically create single point to multi-point intents and multi-point to single point at the optical level. This is the first step to map what BPLS and SDN/IP do on top of packet optical for the final results of having layer 0, layer 2, and layer 3 working all together on ONOS. Corsa is working, for now there's a draft, it's not public, but work on the new driver for the new Corsa pipeline, which will be deployed in Giant in production, hopefully. And then we have demos and deployments activities going on constantly. Lots of people interested, especially in BPLS, which is quite new. So, yeah, that's it.
Great. Thanks, Luca. On the packet optical side, is Mark there?
Yeah, Yuta.
Yeah. So for packet optical side, basically we've been working on trying to implement the protection mechanism into the intent framework, and so far it's more like groundwork which was needed in order to reach that point, like codec context enhancement and JSON codec and so on. And one thing is pending in review, which I would like some NOSBAN people to review, is the one about the intent key handling. So in some of the intent, the intermediate intent inherit key from the original intent, but some of them didn't, and I've aligned it so that every intermediate intent will inherit the key from the original top-level intent, so that by looking at the key, you can identify the root intent it was installed in, and I was wondering if that was the right direction to go, and if so, if the patch looks good or not. If you could take a look sometime later, that would be great. And some other stuff going on is the actual SAS1 behavior definition of the protection and designing how I need to integrate that into intent framework, which is sort of related to the intent, what was the intent provider type of thing which we will need eventually. That is about it.
Great. Thank you, Yuta.
Question, is this protection at packet layer or optical layer?
This is
or both, maybe?
It can be both. The behavior definition does not say anything about the technology layer. We're going to shoot for the packet layer protection in the first class, but there's no reason it cannot be used in the WSS or so on. So,
Point-to-point intents.
Yes, linear protection.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Can you read this one?
Yep.
So now virtualization brigade is working on, actually we are divided, working on with 3 separate module teams. So this is NBI, SBI, and the core. So for NBI, we are working on we implemented the skeleton code for OpenFlow agent, which is then will communicate with the external controllers, and it receives some OpenFlow messages and also reply some, process the message to external controller. And in southbound interfaces, also we implemented, I defined several interfaces for providers which the virtualization core will consume, and As the first step, we also implemented flow rules and package provider is implemented, and all code is implemented code are under review. So yeah, this is our current status.
Great, thank you, Yunsun.
Sure.
So in the ONOS one, I was wondering why open flow or protected protocol specific things show up was kind of mysterious to me, but I was wondering how I should understand that.
Sorry, why is your question?
So I mean, ONOS's intention was that transform protocol will be abstracted away, and the ONOS one will eventually be protocol agnostic. But here you're
but in this case, we have another reverse system things happen because in this OF agent we're facing the external controllers, and they are communicating with the OpenFlow protocols through ONOS bound. So this is our case.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question, Yuta. This is just one of the external interfaces. There are applications that are running on platform that are tenant or network aware can use internal Java APIs to be able to program the virtual networks using the usual abstractions such as flow rules or flow objectives. And the OpenFlow is just simply something that sits on top of that and provides external controllers, as Yunsun said, with access to programming using OpenFlow.
So in this case, I guess the ONOS API happens to be OpenFlow. It's not like the subsystem is OpenFlow based or something.
Yeah, but it can also be REST API too, right? Did I answer your question, or?
Yes, I understood. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, Dynamic Configuration Brigade. Is Patrick there?
No.
He should be online. I saw him earlier.
He's in the conference, but not in this room.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Can you try to send a request on mute? Because maybe not.
So he's there, but okay. So at least until he speaks up, let me try to provide an update on this. So there were a couple of there were efforts on a couple of different fronts. First of all, there was recruiting done on development and QA side to increase the sort of corporate diversity of the Dynamic Configuration Brigade, which was previously primarily just Huawei with few people from Fujitsu. Guru was kind enough to create a sort of high-level story for discussing and for aligning on goals and objectives for the and overall approach of the dynamic configuration. So that was done, and it was actually reviewed just recently with AT&T, and the good news is that we're on a right track. In order to, so a number of us have sat together to discuss sort of the design requirements, and so we've written them down in a document which we've opened up for comments a couple of weeks ago to sort of revisit the original design and to slightly realign the boundaries between the various components, so for better modularity and extensibility. While we were in ONOS Build, we had a half-a-day working session with everybody in the same room, which was really useful. And so this is where we sort of aligned on different use cases that will be demonstrated. Primarily, the focus is on the first two, case 1, case 2, where we're basically demonstrating ability of the device configuration subsystem to be able to provide raw access to custom device configurations. And case 2, where a service provider can deploy a Yang modeled service, such as, for example, L3 VPN. There are also other 3 cases which deal with multi-vendor capabilities, but those will be pursued at a later time. Architecturally, there will not be anything in place to prevent us from accomplishing those. But for the sake of focus, we're focusing on number 1 and 2 initially. And as I've alluded to, we've discussed the sort of overall approach with Brian Freeman, which is their SDNC architect, and we discussed the story and overall approach, and we received positive feedback, so which is assuring that we're on the right track. The roadmap for the functionality, clearly nothing will be sort of buttoned up. There will be work done, but nothing will be buttoned up for external consumption in an I release, in an Ibis release. But the goal is, by the J release, is to provide the basic functionality and integration of Yang compiler, Yang runtime, and Yang store, and aim for demonstrating both use cases, use case 1 and use case 2, on ONOS show floor. So the top priority items are right now focusing on reworking the Yang runtime API and the Yang store, defining the Yang store service API, and extracting some, refactoring some of the code generation facilities in the Yang compiler. So at a high level, this is it. Unless somebody has any questions, we can probably move on.
So one question in the room was, where can someone find the collateral, i.e. the PowerPoint and doc?
That's a good question. We can probably link those to the wiki on Dynamic Configuration Brigade. We should do that. Okay, any other questions? All right, if not, let's move on. vRouter, who is going to provide an update on this one? Anyone?
Should be.
Is it Jono?
Should be Jono.
This is not work that's done by me. This is work that's done by an external collaborator. I don't really know much about it, but I saw that they pushed an initial patch for the IPv6 support in vRouter, and I reviewed that, and I guess they're still working on addressing the comments and finalizing their support for IPv6.
Okay, but the goal is for this work to go into the Ibis release then?
I'm not sure exactly when it will be done.
Okay.
It depends when it gets done.
All right. Thanks, Jono. All right. Suchitra or John, do you guys want to provide the QA status?
Sure. So we did some work with, I guess, tightening up or improving some of the performance tests. With the scale topology test, worked on some improvement to visibility of the different timing and what events are taking longer. We also did some investigation of the intent reroute test of why the timings were different. For the VPLS test, the SNIP test, we are adding VLANs that didn't get finished this sprint, but will probably be done next week. And then the VPLS testing was originally planned for this sprint, but that just started today, so we'll probably do that next sprint, or finish it next sprint. And then just investigating this bug, several people have been looking at it, including myself and Thomas and Aaron, and not a lot of progress has been made in identifying the root cause.
Yeah, I've been having difficulty reproducing it.
Okay. If you go to the next slide. These numbers might have been changed since I did this earlier this morning. The 54 bugs were resolved this sprint, and 62 were created. which leaves a total of 223, which is, I guess, on pace with the increase that we've traditionally had. And here are some high priority bugs. The first one is the one that we were just talking about. And then the second, I guess, the other ones are some performance regression bugs. Not huge regressions, but they've been around since ON.Lab 6. Just something to be aware of.
Okay, thanks, John. I think what we probably need to do is schedule maybe next sprint schedule a bug scrub session so we can revisit some of the defects and make sure that because this morning when I was looking at stories and issues, I came across a handful of them which have already been addressed but were either stuck in progress or open. It looks like as though that work was done outside of the sprint boundaries and somehow where their status was not properly closed. So I think it would be useful to revisit all of them just to make sure that we're not lugging around some dead wood. All right. I don't think we have Jean on.
He is on the call.
Oh, he is. Jean, do you want to?
Hi, Thomas.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Thomas.
It's good to hear you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, and I'm ready for reporting the Lisp SPS report stuff.
Please.
So, okay, thanks. So in this sprint, we try to interconnect Lisp data plane with the ONOS controller finally, and there are two well-known open source Lisp data plane what we have. One is OpenLisp, and another one is Open Overlay Router, which is driven by UPC. And in this sprint, we're more focused on supporting the control message exchange with OpenLisp. And to realize this, we added the initial version of map server and the resolver, which handle the map register, notify, and the request and reply messages so far. Also, for showing the demo purpose, we also added the traffic engineering LCAF address, and with this support, we can now provide the Lisp-based traffic engineering, and a preliminary demo has been shown in ONOS build. And now we are working on tracking down the Lisp router status to store mapping information of our ITR and ETR in ONOS controller internally, and also in order to handle the case when the device sits behind the NAT device. We are currently working on handling the info request and the info reply control message. And that's all what we have for this sprint. Thanks. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Okay. Thanks.
So thank you, Jean. Thanks for staying up.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, Brian, you want to take this?
Sure. So a lot of this work was done in or above the cloud, and by that I mean in the plane on the way to and from the And I guess Thomas had the misfortune of sitting next to me and being bothered about some of this stuff on the way as he was trying to watch his movies. But no, it was good. So on the Buck front, we have the ability now to generate the composite internal external docs using Buck. We have ID support using Buck, so you can run Buck project and import without the palms. You can install your Buck built artifacts right into your local Maven 2 repo. We now can run the sonar cube analysis using Buck. And then there's two bug fixes that we did. One was a problem where test exceptions weren't being reported, and the other was a problem where artifacts weren't getting rebuilt when there were changes to web resources. So that was tackled. And then we also, in preparation for my talk at ONOS Build, Ray and I and Thomas wrote some documentation. A lot of it made its way into the wiki, but I also want to put a link to the slides that I gave there too. So largely, I think we're driving down the number of blockers that will prevent us from deleting the palms, but we're getting pretty close.
That's great. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Okay, and now for the exciting part. Yeah, it's one demo here.
Can you make me presenter, please?
Yes, I will. Luca, presenter. Take it away.
Show my screen. Okay, cool. Okay, you all have already background on VPLS, right? So the concept is that nothing fancy, but something very simple that can hopefully work consistently and simplify the life of many people. So in this demo, we have 4 switches, 1, 2, 3, 4, with 4 hosts connected, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one sending in packets into the network on a different VLAN. Okay. So what we want to do is basically let these hosts communicate, create on-demand and on-demand layer 2 broadcast network between them. And I'll also show how we will be able to add encapsulation to transport the traffic along the core, both with VLAN and MPLS. So let me move to this other window here. Let me make it bigger. Okay, on the left side, I have ONOS. Can you also people online can see my screen just fine?
Yes.
Okay. So left side I have ONOS, right side I have Mininet. Okay. So as I said, I'm not sure how much the input will be clear, but you can see I have. Well, let's start with the summary, maybe. Okay. I have 4 hosts, 4 devices, 1 ONOS instance. The hosts, each of them, as in the slides, is connected to a different switch. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and uses a different VLAN: 100, 200, 300, and 400. So I've already added a list of interfaces into ONOS. Basically, they say I've called the interfaces just as the host. Okay, each interface basically just say expect packets on these ports from with this VLAN. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'll try to ping between 2 hosts, 2 of the 4 hosts in the network, H1 to H2. As you can see, of course, the ping doesn't go through because I don't have any VPLS configured. If I do VPLS list, nothing. VPLS show, nothing. Now let's add a VPLS network. Okay, so I do just VPLS add network 1. Then I say VPLS add interface to net 1, add interface host 1. Then add interface host 2. As you can see, the 2 hosts start to talk together. Okay. Sorry, I need to see my mouse here, otherwise there is. Okay, so same thing. Host 3, it doesn't talk to host 1. We just add host 3 to our network. They start to talk together. Same thing with host 4. They don't ping. I add it to our network. They start to talk together. Okay. Of course, I can also remove an interface. So I can do VPLS delete interface 4 from VPLS. In this case, sorry, VPLS. Sorry, deface host 4. As you can see, the ping stops on the right. Okay. I just add it back, and the ping starts to work again. Okay. I do, just to show you here, I do VPLS show. As you can see, you have a VPLS network called net1 with 4 interfaces added to it. Okay. Now, if you see here, encapsulation is set to none. So the packets, they match the ingress VLAN, they are forwarded to the egress devices, and the VLAN is overwritten at the egress device. Nothing more, but no VLAN or MPLS tag layers are used to push the packet, to transport the packet through the core, which is good to have instead to isolate the traffic of the users between different tenants, between different VPLS. So what we can do is to set the encapsulation. So I do VPLS, set encap, net1, VLAN, for example. Okay. Now, if we do again VPLS show, it says that the encapsulation is VLAN. And if I look at the intents, hold on 1 second, it's coming, it takes a while. Okay, you can see that, sorry, let me, okay. There's a new constraint which says encapsulation is VLAN. Finally, last ping, I can come back, as you can see the ping never stopped, by the way, on the other side. I can come back to a no encapsulation for that network, right? So now my intents, hold on, they need to recompile. Okay, don't have any more the encapsulation constraint, the traffic is flowing anyway. Last thing I can do is instead of VLAN, I put MPLS encapsulation for network 1. And if I show you, well, of course, if I do VPLS show, now the encapsulation is set to MPLS. And if I show you the intents, encapsulation is MPLS. So it will be a mess to see it, but just to, we should find somewhere, yes. For example, here, yeah, close the chest should be better. Well, kind of. So yeah, but if you see here, for example, we are pushing, we are adding to the packet to do encapsulation and PLS labels, for example. Okay, and well, the only other thing I can do just to conclude the demo is to kill the entire network. That's it. And of course, the ping on the right now stops to work. That's it. If you have questions. Not yet. One of the stories we have in the backlog, possibly for the, well, we have different stories. The first one is to support not only interfaces tagged with something, like with a VLAN, but also entire physical interfaces. Second thing will be to add access ports. But it's really trivial, I would say, at this point. Well, not on the access interfaces actively, but I guess we'll take it in the next sprint, so someone will do it.
Here's a chance to see the intents. Can you remind me which intents are being used to provide the connection?
So for the broadcast traffic, single point to multi-point intents. We match on the ingress VLAN, we match on the broadcast destination MAC address, and then we rewrite the VLAN at the egress. For unicast traffic, multi-point to single-point intents. So imagine that from the, maybe with the, yeah, with the slides is easier. So imagine that from host 234, right, multi-point, you need to reach your destination, single point. And so here we match on the different ingress VLANs and on the MAC address of the destination host. And of course, at destination, well, sorry, at the source on the ingress switches, in this case, we directly rewrite here the VLAN from the ingress VLAN to the egress VLAN before forwarding. Yes.
So in this scenario, you are showing the connectivity between the hosts, the password you send for the subnetwork.
So you need to have.
Each one can change it to subnetwork.
Well, it could, yeah, it could be any layer 3. It must be any layer 3 device at the edge, right? It could be a router. It could be whatever.
So in this case, if we attach some subnetwork.
What you mean subnetwork?
It's just a campus network. For example, so maybe we can put it here and ONOS. With another, it could be a question that another window sites are there, then we want to connect to with PI.
So, well, yeah. So usually either you have a router on the side, right? And so I give you just a layer 2, right? Yeah. So the addressing scheme is up to you. Yeah. So you can do whatever at this point. Either you put a router on the side, and then it's up to you the layer 3. So behind the router, that could be whatever. Or if you want to connect multiple hosts at layer 2, either to the same port using different VLANs or to different ports using the same or different VLANs, you can do that. So I'm not sure I got your question, but
how we can, if the host is using the same address inside there, maybe same addresses exist, then how we can ensure this address publication
within the same VPLS?
Yeah.
Well, no, the layer 3 is up to you, right? Okay. So I'm giving you a layer 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we do here, imagine that today in a network like this, imagine in a geographical network where these things happen, these configurations are usually done switch by switch. They configure the trunks, they configure the access ports, they go device by device. So here you saw the difference, right? It's like 4 commands, and on demand you delete networks, you create networks, you add interfaces to it. Yeah. And the only other important last thing to mention is that the same thing I've done through the CLI, right? When I, of course, well, this is the network CFG.json. It's not something due to MPLS, but it's anyway good to have. So if you do something like this, and then you add, let's say we add again EFACE, net1, host1, and then host4. Okay, so yeah, so it pings again, and you look at the network configuration. Wait, let me do it from here. There's the corresponding JSON generated. So the same configuration can be done pushing the JSON through the network configuration, through the CLI, through programmative interface, like REST API, but also Java API. Well, of course, because the REST API and the CLI relies on the Java API, right? So that's why different applications, like for example, bandwidth on demand from Giant, we rely on top of this application, which gives you at this point basically the abstraction, the primitives to create layer 2 networks. Yeah. So.
Very good. And then work of the brigade, right?
Yeah.
In your case, you can see the brigade successfully got to completion.
Yeah, absolutely. It worked very well. It is working very well. So yeah, we're very happy. I can make, if you have more slides, I can make you again presenter, Thomas. Let me stop to share my screen and.
Okay, thank you, Luca.
Thank you.
So, Simon, did you have a demo?
Yeah, I can briefly show you the region navigation in its current state.
Okay.
Which is what we showed in Paris.
Great. I'll hand you the reins.
Great. As I have 2 screens, I'm not sure which one I'm showing here.
So I see ONOS UI.
Okay, with the in the top left here, regions root.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the work in progress new topology view. So we're working on it here, and what we have configured are some regions and subregions around London, Brighton. There's a host in Dover, and what we have going here is by double-clicking on a region, we can navigate in to see what's within that region. So in this case, the Brighton region has 3 devices and 3 hosts. And if you look at the breadcrumbs at the top here, we have a hyperlink to go back to the root view. And then these can be nested arbitrarily. So going into London, we have a couple of devices here with hosts, but you can also go down another level. And again, the breadcrumb updates so that you can jump back to any ancestor view you wish. So as you can imagine, you can start with a global view of your network and then drill into subregions. So there you go. There's a very quick demonstration of how the new topology view should behave.
This is great. Thank you, Simon.
Okay, which of these? Stop sharing screen and change presenter. Back to Thomas.
All right. So I don't think we have a slide for this, but I mean, clearly this concludes the review for the sprint 2. But what I would like to do is just briefly discuss a couple of things for the next sprint. So today is the sort of feature freeze date, where basically new functionality beyond this point should not be added. So we should start working for the next sprint. We should start working towards buttoning up the Ibis release and fixing any of the critical bugs. The goal is to start with doing an RC build sometimes next week to iron out the release process and basically start prepping for the release date as early in December as possible. Our goal going forward is to try to stick to the release dates and keep them from spilling beyond the projected release date too much, because that's what happened with Hummingbird, and basically effectively that ended up shortening the Ibis release. So please keep that in mind while you're planning the next sprint, which we will have on Monday. I have not scheduled a time yet. I will work with Jan to set it up. Or have you already set it up, Jan?
I think we needed to work through the time.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, the next sprint was scheduled to be 2 weeks long,
Yes.
which ends on Thanksgiving.
Yes, so we may actually extend that. Yes. Or
because the following one is 1 week long.
Yeah.
So do you want to collapse them?
Well, so we have a couple of different choices, and maybe that's something we ought to think about and decide on Monday. But we have a couple of options. We can extend it. Clearly, ending it on Thanksgiving doesn't make any sense. So we should either end it before Thanksgiving, like a week and a half, or just simply spill it over past Thanksgiving and have it afterward.
I think it makes the most sense just to go with the 3-week model and just end it on December 2nd, which is right around the release date anyway.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yep, I agree. But in terms of the sort of the theme for this next sprint should be basically buttoning things up towards the Ibis release. So what I would like to do is as part of next sprint planning, we can also decide on a plan for when we would create a support branch for 1.8, and further work going towards Ibis would be happening on that branch, and any work that's heading towards the J release, which is yet to be named, will continue on master. All right. So I'm going to leave the sprints open probably till Sunday, just so that for a couple of reasons, so that any sort of spillover work has a chance to get flushed out. Because if you close the sprints now, they're gonna get tossed in the backlog, and the items are not gonna count towards velocity. And then
Sunday.
I'm sorry, what?
So close your stories and bugs by Sunday.
Yes.
So, but the things that are in progress, because the thing is that like the deployment brigade, as other brigades, are spread all around the world. So it would be nice if to discuss, we have the weekend, just the time frame to drag the stories into the new sprint.
Yeah. So
the stories that are in progress, if I move them to the sprint before, in the new sprint before the old sprint ends, what happens?
Well, so I think what we can do, Luca, is play it brigade by brigade, right? You said that is one of the benefits of having the sprints planning by brigade, or at least split up by brigade. So if you feel comfortable with closing your sprint, like right now, go ahead, do that, and start a new one, and have your brigade start planning your sprint forward. I guess I was speaking on behalf of the platform brigade, because I know that there's some pending items that Brian would want it to do. If other brigade members feel like they're comfortable with me or closing the sprints, or them doing it themselves, please go ahead and do so. And we can start the new ones afterwards. How does that sound?
You're getting a big smile from Luca.
Okay. Okay. Good. No, and just make sure that you when you I guess we can adjust the sprint duration, but plan them for next 3 weeks, basically starting Monday and ending Friday 3 weeks from then.
Do you see? Well, we can take it offline, but just because you're there, do you see the button to close the sprint? Because I don't see it at all.
So
whatever, we can take it later, but
no, it's fine. I can do that right now. So you ready for me to close your sprint, the deployment one? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the Agile here. One moment. Deployment. Complete sprint.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah, and Thomas, you could also close the GUI sprint too. Thank you.
Sounds good. I will do that as well. So this sprints UI, which by the way, I have to show everybody your burn down progress for the UI. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Just nice work. Okay, so complete. And I presume everybody can start theirs as necessary. Just please try to follow sort of similar naming convention. I'm going to leave the other ones for right now because I don't want to prematurely close it without talking to people, unless. Okay.
Sure.
All right. If nobody has any other questions or comments, you guys have a nice weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday. We'll probably schedule the planning meeting for either right before lunch on Monday or, yeah, most likely right before lunch on Monday. It's probably what's going to have to, or it's going to have to be later in the afternoon on Monday. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.